Hi there friends, if you're new to my channel, my name is Nicole and I'm here today to share my May favorites with you guys. I've got some makeup items, a couple of plays, a movie and album, some books, a couple of random things, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get straight into it. So let's start with the makeup. The first thing is the Maybelline Dream Velvet Soft Matte Hydrating Foundation. I wear it in the shade 05 Warm Porcelain. I have it on today. I look really pale right now, but I am really pale. I really like this. It's kind of, I would call it like a low to medium coverage foundation maybe. I find that it covers exactly the amount that I typically want to. I think it stays on fairly well. I do use a primer with it. It's very creamy, which I really enjoy. Like it spreads on my face nice and it feels, well, I guess it says it's hydrating. It feels hydrating actually, but it is very nice and matte, which is the look that I prefer. It's also Maybelline, so it's not super expensive, which I appreciate, but I'm a fan of this. I've been using it almost exclusively for the past couple of weeks over the month of May, and I think I will keep using it. The next thing is this highlighter, which I have on today. You might not be able to see it. Actually, you can kind of see it maybe, but I got this in my Ipsy. It wasn't actually one of my Ipsy items, which if you don't know is a makeup subscription box, but on Ipsy, if you like review the products that you got, you can earn points and then you can redeem them for like an extra product. So I ordered this and it's this purpley kind of lavender highlighter by Estate. It's called Dew Me, I think, like Dew, like D-E-W. And it's really nice. I really kind of like the purpley sheen to it. Like I said, it's more of like a lavender, a lilac color than like a proper purple, but it shows up really nicely. It looks properly highlighted. Even my little sister Hannah, who typically makes fun of me for not having good enough highlight, thinks that this is really great. So highly recommend this. And the last makeup item is the lipstick, which I also have on today. I purposely wore everything that I'm talking about, but I also have been wearing these most days in the month of May. It is by Girl Power Real Her, is what it says on it. Okay, I think it's by Real Her, but it's called Girl Power, and it's in the shade Mauve. And I got it in my Ipsy, and it's kind of funny. It's this tiny little lipstick, but I really like it. It's like a nice, it's a nice movie color. Like it's a nice dark pink, which I rather enjoy. The next thing that I've really been enjoying in the month of May is this pencil case. It has Marie from the Aristocats on it, and it's just the perfect size to like throw in my bag and just have exactly what I want. And then I've got a ton of like pens and pencils and a highlighter and some tiny post-it notes. And I've just really been enjoying having this because for some reason I only had like really big pencil cases before this, so it's nice to have a smaller one that's easier to like throw in my bag. So moving on to like media things, which is going to be most of this video, I think. The first thing I want to talk about is an album. It is an album called Broken Wings. It is it's a new musical, and it's based on the life of a Middle Eastern poet named Gibran. I honestly don't actually know that much about this poet, which kind of is surprising to me, but it's a really interesting story. It's set in Lebanon, I believe, and it's kind of told in flashback. And I just really enjoy the album. It's got Rob Houchen on it, it's got Adam Leinstead, it's got just some really amazing voices on it, a whole cast of great people. And they are bringing a musical of it to the Theatre Royal Haymarket for like a week. I think it's like the first week of August, which I'm really excited. I'm hoping to go see it. The music was written, well, it's like written by a couple of different people. One of them is the West End actor who you may know from Phantom of the Opera or a bunch of the other projects he's done. I believe you say his name, Nadim Naman. I could be saying that wrong. I'm very sorry if I am, but I really, really enjoy the album. I've been listening to it a lot. I would compare it musically to maybe something like Ragtime or Titanic. It's got that same kind of hauntingly longing feel to the music, and it's mostly ballads, I would say, but then it's got a few more jaunty, upbeat songs thrown in as well, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So I will try and put a link down below I think I'm going to have a review of the album up soon, and I'm also interviewing Nadim for Broadway World UK, so I will put a link to that down below as well. My next favorite for the month of May is a film, and I have here the book that it's based on, which is actually my mother's favorite book, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I'd not read it before now. But Rhiannon, my best friend here, and I are buddy reading it for our little tiny London book club, and we were both absolutely enthralled by it because we went to see the movie last Saturday, and the movie is called the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. I struggle to remember that no matter how many times I go to say it, but it is the most beautiful movie. So basically, if you don't know about the, as I'm going to call it from now on, the Guernsey movie, it is set kind of post-World War II, but it's looking back on, I actually didn't know before my mom read this book that Guernsey, which is one of the Channel Islands, which belong to Britain, but are along the coast of France, was occupied by the Germans during World War II. And so a lot of the book and the movie deal with the German occupation of Guernsey, and you kind of see that in flashbacks, because the kind of basic plot of the movie is that this writer, played by the wonderful Lily James, whom I adore, begins kind of corresponding with a man who lives in Guernsey because he finds her address in a secondhand book that he's bought. And she, as a writer, becomes really interested, so she goes to Guernsey to learn more about the people there and about the occupation period, and it kind of all unfolds from there. But it's got this beautiful cast. Like, it has Matthew Good and Penelope Wilton and Jessica Brown Finlay and Lily James, and it's kind of a Downton Abbey reunion, really, but it's just such a beautiful, lovely period drama. I love a good film, you know, set in a historical period, and post-war Britain, like late 1940s, is something I'm actually not that familiar with, so it's really, really cool to get to learn about that. Really cool to get to learn about something new that I never really learned about in history before, like the occupation of the Channel Islands. And it's also just a beautiful story. I literally cried through like the whole second half of the movie. Like, not full-on crying, but like, just, there were constant tears, just constant tears. I know the movie is out here now in the UK. I know it's not getting a wide US release is what I remember seeing. I think it's going straight to Netflix. I don't know that there's a date for that yet, but definitely keep an eye out for it and read the book if you are waiting for the movie to come out. And yes, I did get the movie cover because love a good cover with Lily James on it. I have to say, I'm not typically one to buy like a movie or TV edition cover of a book, unless Lily James is on it, because I do also have the BBC television series copy of War and Peace. But I just cannot say enough good things about this film. I kind of want to go see it again, but I'm telling myself not to because films are expensive at the cinema. But I definitely cannot wait for it to be out on Netflix and on DVD. I will definitely buy the DVD, even if it is on Netflix, because it's just so beautiful. It's so heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. And it has these beautiful characters that, like, there's a passage in the book where Juliet, who's the main character, says that she's in love with these two men, and she wants this one woman, who's played by Penelope Wilton in the film, to adopt her, and she wants to adopt this other woman, and that's exactly how I feel about it. Like, I just want to be friends with all of these people, and or characters, I guess. And it also, there's just some beautiful performances in the film by all the different actors in it, and as you might be able to tell, I just literally can't say enough good things about it. Also, definitely keep an eye out because I'm sure that the Guernsey book will be in my June favorites because I've not finished it yet, so I told myself I can't put it in this month. Speaking of books though, I do have two books that I finished in the month of May that I want to include in these favorites. The first one is called Boy Erased, which is a memoir by Gerard Conley. It is a memoir largely about gay conversion therapy, which obviously I'd heard of before, but I didn't really have any kind of concept of what that meant, or concept of the fact that it still was happening very recently. But Gerard Conley is a man who went through it whenever he was in his late teens. His father was a Baptist preacher, was in the process of becoming one whenever he was outed as gay to his family, and it's a really hard book to read. I did cry in parts. It made me really angry, which I'm not like an angry person, so that was kind of weird. But it just, you know, it's a beautiful book and a beautiful memoir, and I think something that people really need to know more about because it is something horrible that's still happening. So I do recommend checking it out. There's also a film of this memoir coming out very soon, produced, I think, directed and starred in by Joel Edgerton, and it's got Lucas Hedges playing the main character, and it's got Russell Crowe and Nicole Kidman, so I'm sure it's going to be grand. I actually am part of a podcast called Next Best Adaptation, and our first episode was about this book, so kind of discussing the book and then what we think it'll be like as a film, so I'll put a link to that down below. The second book is a biography of Catherine Howard. It is called Young and Damned and Fair, The Life of Catherine Howard, Fifth Wife of King Henry VIII by Gareth Russell. And it took me almost the whole month to get through this. It is really thick, as you can tell, and quite dense, but I really, really enjoyed it. Gareth Russell, he did his graduate dissertation on a study of Catherine Howard's household, so he knows a lot. Like, he can give you basically the name of every person who was in her household. And I had always kind of dismissed Catherine Howard as being just kind of young and stupid, which I do still think that she was. She's no Anne Boleyn. She's no, you know, Catherine Parr. She's definitely not my favorite of Henry VIII's wives, but I am fascinated by her now, and this book was absolutely wonderful. He does a really good job at kind of giving a really good overall feel for the court at the time, while also giving you a lot of like really crazy kind of intimate details of their lives, but also a really interesting discussion of how little we actually know about Catherine Howard. I didn't realize that there's like still a fairly large range that they have for her birth year, let alone date. But, you know, it did really give me the perspective that she was quite young whenever she married Henry. She was in her teens, and unlike Jane Seymour, who was kind of used as a pawn of her family, or Anne Boleyn, who had her family kind of behind her the whole time, Catherine Howard's family, her parents were both dead by the time she was married. Her siblings and her weren't particularly close. One of her, you know, like her main uncle was actually out of the country at the time. Her grandmother who raised her was, I don't want to say she was negligent, but like she didn't really care all that much, it seemed. I also didn't realize that one of the affairs that she's condemned for happened before she was ever married. So, you know, she was still kind of dumb, because after seeing her own cousin Anne Boleyn get executed for a fake affair while married to King Henry VIII, you would think she wouldn't have started a real one. But I am fascinated by her, and I think that this book is really, really nice. It's a good read too. Like, it's not, there's a lot in it, but it doesn't come off as dry at all. I'd say it's a bit dense, but not dry, if that makes sense. Also, there was something fun about walking around. I felt like I got a lot of looks carrying this book around, like on the tube and stuff, because it's Young and Damned and Fair. It's such an interesting title. I love the title of it. But I actually really enjoy this. It might be my favorite biography that I've read in the past few years, so highly recommend it if you've any interest in Henry VIII and his wives or Catherine Howard. And to end, I want to talk about two different plays that I saw in the month of May. The first one is The Play That Goes Wrong, which I saw with Alex, my best friend from home, whenever he was here visiting, and we absolutely loved it. It is a technical marvel. I still don't understand how the set works. The set basically falls apart over the course of the show. If you don't know, it's kind of about a theater company who's doing this like murder mystery play, but everything's going wrong. People are forgetting their lines, the set's not working, just like an actor has to go out injured, and the stage manager comes on in her role. It is hilarious. It's so funny. Like, it's so much funnier than I even expected that it would be, because I'm not typically one for comedy. But I really enjoyed it, and it's worth it for the technical aspects alone. I did film a review of it, which I'll link down below, and I also put a review of it up on my blog, which I'll also link down below. So, highly recommend. It is on UK tour right now. It's here in the West End, and it is on Broadway until the end of the summer, but then it is closing, so if you are somewhere that you can go and see it, I highly recommend doing so. The last thing that I want to talk about, my last favorite for the month of May, is the play Red. It is by Josh Logan, directed by Michael Grandage, who's also the director of Frozen on Broadway. But Red originated at the Donmar Warehouse back in 2009, which is where I'm interning, and it's also been on Broadway, where Alfred Molina, I think, was nominated for a Tony for his role. So it's got the same creative team that it has back at the Donmar and on Broadway, and now it's here in the West End at the Wyndham's Theatre. I went to the press night and reviewed it for Broadway World UK. I'm also feeling very fond towards this show, because they do have a quote from my review up on the wall at the theater now, like on the outside front of house bit, so that made me pretty excited. But it is just a beautiful piece. It's about the artist, Mark Rothko, and it kind of uses Rothko's life as a way to explore what art means and what it means to be an artist, and you know, whether, like, does art have to be painful? Does art have to evoke change? Can art just be enjoyable, and is that still valid? It's a two-person show, and Alfred Molina is back playing the role of Rothko. He played it at the Donmar and on Broadway, and he's now here in the West End, and it's a superb performance. Honestly, I feel like I learned a lot about acting. Like, the way that he can go from 0 to 100 in a split second is insane. He is so good in the role. I understand so much why there's so much acclaim around it. And the role of his assistant Ken is being played by Alfie Enoch, who you may know as Dean Thomas in Harry Potter or from How to Get Away with Murder. He's so good in the role of Ken and a perfect foil to Alfred Molina. I think that they just do splendidly together. I'm definitely going to go see it again. It closes in July, so I'm definitely probably going to go again in June, if not 2 more times, just because I think that anyone who cares about art in any form, in any way, should see this show. It honestly challenged some of the things that I believe about art. It made me rethink some of my opinions. particularly related to this current probably season that we have going on. And I know several people who've been to see it on my recommendation and really, really enjoyed it. So if you're in London, I highly recommend checking it out. If you're not, if you can get a copy of the script, I highly recommend reading it, because I do think that like it's a really important piece, honestly, for someone who wants to work in the industry. So if you do as well, or whatever form of the art industry, not just theater, I think it's really impressive. It's a great piece of work, and it's a beautiful production of it. So those are my favorites for the month of May. I can't believe it's already June. Seems crazy to me that I only have a couple of more months left here in London before I head back to the States. But I would love it if you would tell me what you've been loving in the month of May down below in the comments. If you have book recommendations or plays or makeup or anything, I'm open to hearing it all. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, because that really does make my day. I don't know if that's sad, but it does. And if you like these videos and you're not subscribed already, do subscribe to my channel, because that would be really lovely, and that way you won't miss out on any of my theater and sometimes lifestyle and sometimes vlog content. In any case, like I said earlier, I will leave links to everything that I've mentioned down below in terms of reviews and whatnot, and I also will link to my social media and my blog if you'd like to follow along with me there. Otherwise, I'll see you guys again next Saturday, and have a wonderful week. Bye! Why did my voice go up like 4 octaves?